Good evening. It is now 6 p.m. and welcome to the Community Development Meeting. Today's date being November 4th. I'm the Chair, Lewis Washington. Today's meeting is being recorded and will be available on the city's website. Thank you for joining us. First, we'll start with our roll call. Looks like we have everyone here. Councilmember Watton, Councilmember Johnson, City Clerk, Madam Mayor, and our esteemed Director. Okay. Okay, so now we'll move to our first item of regular business to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay. Second. All right, sounds good. Love it. Okay. Next, at this time, we will provide time for residents to provide public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to provide public comment? Yes, Director.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to take just a brief moment to see if we could have our new employee, Mona Davis, come up to the podium and introduce herself. We're so proud to have Mona in the Community Development Department, and this is the start of her second week.
Well, welcome, Mona.
Thank you. Yes, I'm
Nice to
Mona
meet you.
Davis,
Nice to
and
meet you.
I'm excited to be your new senior planner. So feel free to reach out. I know nothing yet, but I'm learning. So,
Well, thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank
Any questions? I think you got a question here from Councilmember White.
Statement.
A statement.
First of all, I'm thrilled to have Mona join us. She has been a resident in North Bend. She's been involved in our previous affordable housing discussions over the past years and been our connection to the city of Black Diamond. And I was absolutely stunned and thrilled to find out that she's joining our staff. So welcome, Mona.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. Did you have a question, Councilmember Johnson? You're good. Okay, sounds good. Okay, any other public comments from the audience at this time? Okay, so now that concludes our public comment phase, and public comment is officially closed. So moving right along, we now move to our next agenda item, which is the approval of the minutes dated October 21st, 2024. Are there any questions regarding the minutes from our last community development meeting? Okay.
Move its adoption.
All right. If there are no questions, I would ask for, can we go ahead and approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Okay. So that brings us to our next agenda item, which is Agenda Bill 24118, Workforce Housing Development Request for Qualifications. At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Director Artecha.
Yes, so you have in your packet an updated version of the RFQ from our last meeting. So if you read through it, you'll see that we've added the 55 plus. We've added some more details about the site location. And we've also had this reviewed internally by our legal department.
Okay. I'm just curious, were there any corrections from legal? Do you remember?
No, nothing substantial at
Okay.
all. So just some clarifications and so I'm happy to answer any questions, but really I'll turn it back to the committee to discuss if they want to continue to revise this or determine that it's ready to go to city council. And it is scheduled to go to the next city council meeting.
Okay. I just have a quick question on the evaluation criteria. If my memory serves me, it looks like that's been increased by 6 points. Was it 50 points from the last iteration?
It was increased because we decided to go ahead and add two
Okay. Okay.
per partner or community
Okay.
partner up to
Okay.
maximum.
So
maximum
there's
six.
the math. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Johnson.
And the only thing was, for me was I went to the website, that was linked.
Oh, it's not live yet.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna ask,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
think so. All right,
It's just filled in as a placeholder.
okay.
Yeah, but there's a little affordable housing
Mhm.
that you could link to, and that would be the spot where we would direct people to find out more information.
That's kind of what I figured. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Watt?
I'm excited.
Me too.
Let's do this.
All right.
Sounds good. Well, it sounds like we have unanimous agreement here and we'll move it forward to the next council meeting. We'll bring it before the next council
Probably
meeting.
Non-consent.
Oh.
But yeah, I definitely, it won't be on the consent agenda.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, so we'll move it through as a regular agenda bill item, non-consent.
Great. I'm very pleased with the committee's work to get to the final stage on this draft.
Well, thank you very much, Director, for your hard work. And, you know,
Absolutely.
absolutely put a lot of effort out into this. And I think we went through 3-4 iterations of this. So thank you.
Well done.
Yeah. We'll look forward to seeing that at the next council meeting, correct? So the 11th? Okay.
Well,
The 12th.
It's a holiday.
Oh, holiday. Yeah, sorry. In my world, we don't get it off. It's a regular Monday for me. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so the next agenda item is Agenda Bill 24-055, the amendment to Snoqualmie Municipal Code Titles 14 and 15, implementing Senate Bill 5290. And I think we had a modification we were making to this.
yeah, we have, excuse me, Chair, we have our land use consultant, Andrew Levins, online to
Okay.
guide you through the changes that were made, that were
Okay.
requested.
Sounds good. Andrew, are you there with us?
I am.
Okay, thank you for joining us this evening.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you all here virtually tonight to walk through the follow-up that the Community Development Department did after the first reading of these proposed changes last week at the full council meeting. Just to recap on some of the discussion that occurred. Screen. The city attorney was reviewing some of the changes that were proposed before the meeting, which did not give us a ton of time to really do some hard thinking about what the implications of his thoughts were. But after so here's the text really that was in question, and it's this provision SMC 1410-020D exempts certain types of permits from certain processing requirements. So here you'll see the lot line or boundary adjustments, building permits, sign permits not requiring design review or other similar administrative permits are exempt from the requirements for notice of application, consolidated permit processing, and notice of decision, as well as some other processing requirements. These processing requirements are all found in section 1430-020B. These permits those types of permits are exempt from those additional processing requirements because they're very procedural in nature and tend to be non-controversial, mostly just an exercise of someone's individual property rights. And so as long as you're consistent with the code, there's not really a need to generate the additional paperwork that we see here along the top, the pre-application, the determination of, I'm sorry, that's required, but the notice of application, an open record hearing, and a notice of decision. These types of applications in this red box are all exempt from those requirements. After the first reading of this text, the director and I went back to the statute that's governing these provisions, and just took a look to see what it said to make sure that we were fully understanding where it's coming from. And so what we're looking at is the RCW Local Project Review Act, which governs how cities must conduct their permit review. And here we see that cities are permitted by this statute to exclude certain types of procedural permits from these for the type of permit that it is, relatively onerous permitting process. And so we found that this provision was well supported by the statute and that the city is well within its authority to exclude these types of permits from the processing procedures that we're outlining and the changes that we were proposing as part of the SB 5290 amendments. As you'll recall, the SB 5290 amendments distilled down essentially require cities to process certain types of permits in a certain amount of time. So here we have table 1, where we have implemented this requirement. And so for these category 1 permits, the ones that are, for example, exempted above in that red box, they have a 65-day permitting requirement unless exempt. And this is referring to, we added this text to the draft language, similar to over here, how we have all these types of permits listed in this general permit processing table, unless it's exempted from these pre-application requirements that are found elsewhere in the code. So we thought that this was a good reference to a standard that the city's already practicing in its land use code. And we felt that this approach cleared up any potential confusion that the city attorney had identified, and also kept the changes proposed in order to be compliant with SB 5290, compliant with all requirements, but ensured that moving forward, planners and those who are interpreting the code know that they need to identify whether or not these permits could be exempt under this requirement. Similarly, we have applications for a mixed-use final plan. This is something that the city attorney had not identified, but similarly, I would suggest, assuming the director is open to this suggestion, also adding this unless exempt down here where we have the mixed-use final plan, so that we also are just identifying that there could be additional code provisions that people who are using this code need to identify. And so all in all, the Community Development Department, in concert with this interim city attorney, found that this proposal would be compliant with the requirements of SB 5290, but also clear up any potential confusion that was identified at the previous council meeting.
I have a question from Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, I was just wondering on the unless exempt, how they would know where to look for whether it's exempt or not. And I was wondering if for the first one, just saying unless exempt as in 14.10.020D, and then for the other one, 14.10.020C. So that they would at least know to see, oh, is this exempt? And then where to go and look to see if it's exempt. Because as is, I'm not sure that it's clear. But then again, I don't speak legalese, so maybe it is.
Sure, that's a great question. Emily, would you?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well, I'll take
Director.
a shot at it. It does make it extremely difficult to put in site citations from other parts of the code when we start amending the code, and then there's a leftover residue of something.
Mhm.
In this case, a planner looks at this, they know there's an RCW out there that mandates these permit processing times. That RCW number could change or get modified. I'm even a little hesitant about referring or putting a link into the RCW into this code, but you'd know that, just like a planner would know, there's an RCW for what's exempt from SEPA. There's a RCW that tells you what's exempt from shorelines. So, I mean, we're kind of practicing the same methodology about, oh yeah, we know there's state exemptions out there, and they're just the law, the state law.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Councilmember-
thanks. Oh,
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
D is in line with state law. They wouldn't have to go to 14.10.020D to know that. They would already know that there's a law on the books, and they would know where to go check that. Is that a fair way to say it?
I would say while interpreting this title, which governs the way permits are processed in the city of Snoqualmie, this is going to be the first place that someone who's interpreting this code starts. We have the general provisions chapter, and then within this chapter is the scope. And here's where the scope of the applicability of this chapter is called out. And that's also where the C and D occur. And so I can definitely appreciate your concern that a potential citation to that section could be useful, but to Director Arteche's point, it also can create issues down the line unless you've got a really careful eye.
And it sounds like anyone who would be needing to reference this would know where to get the information that they need. It would be a novice like myself who doesn't know where to look, who would
Yeah,
need the
a
reference.
trained professional knows
Right.
that the first thing you do when you get an application is you look for the exemptions. Because
Okay.
if they're exempt from a permit or a procedure, then you don't process them through an extensive
Okay,
permit process.
thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you sort of answered my question. I'm just thinking of kind of the novice, commoner who's reading through this. I wouldn't necessarily know that. And that's probably why I'd want to consult with a planning agency, right? To understand that piece of it.
Yeah, I mean, nothing about this table is, necessarily just, it is a complex table. I'll just put it that way.
Mhm.
And we created this table, if you recall, about a year and a half or 2 years ago, because we didn't have any way to kind of identify what permits followed what process. So it's a multi-functioning table. It's very complex and it's very wonderful in so many ways. And it'll also tell us what the permit processing time is for each permit, knowing that there are exceptions, and this is the best that the table can get to serve the multiple purposes that it has. And that a planner or a land use professional or a staff member would know what exemptions apply
Mm,
by looking at state law and confirming that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Director. I'll lean on my two colleagues here because I wasn't at the last city council meeting. Has the question been answered that was raised by Councilmember Holloway?
Yeah, I think so.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't want to speak for Councilmember Holloway by any means, of course, but
Just in context. of
yeah,
what-
and the issue wasn't even raised by Councilmember Holloway. It was actually by our planning department.
Mhm.
They're the ones who kind of identified this issue and brought it to us at the time. And we kind of waffled on whether it really needed to come back maybe or
Mhm,
not,
mhm.
but Councilmember Holloway thought that that'd be best, and we ultimately agreed that
Okay.
it'd be just good for us to take a look at it and then send it back as a clean version, which I believe that we have, unless anything else comes up between now and the next council.
Hopefully not. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Watton?
I have no concerns.
Anything? Sounds
No.
good. Well, should we take another action and push it forward to our next council meeting? I like it. Looks good.
And this would be the second reading, I believe.
Correct. Are we thinking that it would be at our meeting on the 12th? for, it'd be available for the next council meeting on the 12th. Okay, sounds good. Okay, Andrew, did you have any other comments, sir?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Of course.
So. All right, so. Fine. Get on the same page here. Okay, so that brings us to our discussion item, which is 2025 legislative priorities. I'll just kind of ask a general question, and if we're not necessarily prepared to have the discussion today, I'm okay with it rolling into the next committee meeting. Are we prepared to discuss 2025 legislative priorities today?
Sure.
Take a
We
stab
have
at
good
it.
time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's have the discussion. So kind of set the table here. So 2025 legislative priorities, we were given kind of a working document here, and the item that I see that kind of just jumps off the page for me, please jump in, is the affordable housing piece, expanding the REIT authority for the state and local to fund affordable housing, House Bill 1628. We'll kind of just start the discussion there. Any points on it? Councilmember Johnson?
Yeah, I didn't write it, so I am just curious. I believe that the council has fairly unanimously identified affordable housing as being a priority for us. I'm just wondering where that specific thing came from and why that instead of something else.
It's a good question. I'll defer to Madam Mayor.
I am looking it up.
Okay.
So it was obviously a House bill last year. Oh, so it was increasing the supply of affordable housing by modifying the state and local real estate excise tax. And so most likely the use of the tax. And, you know, sometimes we refer to like AWSC on their legislative priorities, and most likely we brought that to our level to the city because as you mentioned, for affordable housing is obviously one of our top priorities. So.
Councilmember Johnson.
And then one of the important things is I take it that HB 1620 did not pass. Is that why we're asking for it again? I guess I could look that up.
I'm assuming it didn't, but maybe we should.
Well, I think also you just have the legislative priority, can't talk, those
Legislative priorities.
priorities from last year,
mhm.
and that you're editing them.
Yeah.
So.
So the way I understand it, coming right to you, Councilmember Watt, the way I understand it, Madam Mayor, this is a kind of a rollover, if you will, from last year.
Last year, correct.
Okay. And so, yeah, I think that would be a fair assumption that 1628 didn't pass. Do you have information on that, Councilmember Watt?
Yeah, actually, it died in committee in January 8th of 2024 this year. And it did not pass in 23. So, you know, I think the one thing we need to kind of highlight, and that is the challenge for rural communities.
Say that 3 times.
Because much of the funding is geared to transit-oriented development from the federal to the state, and it makes it very challenging. And Ms. Davis can speak to that as well from Maple Valley's perspective, but trying to get funding for some of the unique challenges we have here makes it doubly hard because there's a state scoring thing on LIHTC funding, and you've got to get in line years in advance in order to get the low income housing tax credits. There needs to be another vehicle that's specific for smaller communities, those under 25,000. And, you know, I think that we've got a lot of support from Eastern Washington. We may not have as much support in Western Washington, but there's certainly, areas outs on the outliers of King County where, we may have some traction. So I guess that would be the challenge back, is to increase development for, those communities outside of TOD vehicles that are available.
So just to kind of thank you very much, Councilmember Watton. Thank you for that. Just to kind of back up and give some context and a little bit of history of this to anyone who's watching who doesn't have history, and namely for myself. So just so I understand everything, because this predates me. So REIT, the way we look at it now, is designated for capital funding. So local capital funding, correct? It's
True, but I think there's two different REITs. And so
okay.
one is strictly capital. And we don't have our finance director on. And then I'm not sure the definition of what the other
Yeah, because
portion is used for.
okay. So when I kind of look at this, I think of the capital version of REIT. Is
Right.
that not accurate?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, just to kind of back up and get a little history here.
An open question.
Yeah. And maybe that's a good point, that we should have our finance director here for this conversation, just to kind of, because
I can go see if he can join really quickly since we've got.
if
adequate
he's
time.
available, yeah.
Let me go check.
Thank you so much, Director. Councilmember Johnson, please.
So then one nice thing about having a bill that has already existed in the past and has made progress in the past is that while we don't know who will be in the legislature necessarily, it is likely that some of them will be there who have been there before. So they will have seen it before, which can
Familiar with
sometimes
it.
make something a little bit more likely, rather than coming up with something of our own and saying, hey, would you guys mind doing this random thing that no one's ever seen before? So I do like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then referencing it, though, I wonder if it might be helpful to say HB 1628 and then adding after that 2023-24.
Yeah.
Because the House bills and Senate bills all get renumbered each. I think it's each term. I think it's every year. I think it's every term.
It sounds like Councilmember Watton may have a little bit of history in it, but do you have any history as to why it died in 2023 versus 2024, Councilmember Watton?
I do not. Right.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember.
I think to the mayor's comments earlier tonight, if we look at, like AWC and see for the direction that they have and see how that works well for us. Pulling it up, one is proposing a councilmanic taxing authority for affordable housing, such as an optional sales tax, or again, real estate transaction tax, which is essentially REIT. Support and support and intent and incentives for cities that are working to expand the variety of housing in traditional single-family neighborhoods. And 3, increase state funding for homelessness crisis response. So I think there's some pieces out there that we could pull into our own agenda.
Well, while we wait to potentially see if
So
finance, council, I'm sorry. Yes.
I did pull up the MSRC
Okay.
and.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, the MR, I'm sorry.
MRSC. So basically it's the research And so REIT 2 is restrictive and it is more, those funds are specifically directed to infrastructure and parks capital projects.
Mhm.
I was not able to get a hold of them.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
And we
Like
could get
her.
further clarification.
okay,
We
Um,
could bring it back and discuss it.
yeah,
yeah, and then
Yeah.
some can be used towards maintenance. And so I think REIT 1 might be
yeah,
used towards maintenance, but we can
okay.
bring more definition.
Yeah, because I'd like to know the difference between the two, and it's knowledge to me tonight that there are two. I thought there was only one REIT fund, but okay. So, with that said, can we hold off to our next Community Development Committee meeting, and we'll have the director here and we'll get further guidance on that. And I would also ask if council members can forward me any other items that they prefer to have on the 2025 legislative priority list as well. And we can have some discussions on that and kind of bring that forward. Feeling good about that? Okay, okay. Well, if there's nothing else, nothing else,
One
oh, sorry, Councilmember
Um,
Johnson.
I didn't get to sit in on the whole discussion in the last committee, but I was curious about under the public safety where it says, and we have a representative from that committee here, the opioid settlement disbursements, underlying drug issues and resources to support communities. That just doesn't sound like an ask. So I was just wondering if
I'm sorry, we're.
public safety had a chance to just like turn that into an ask.
Oh.
It's like
oh.
a statement that there's a thing.
Got
Opioid
it.
settlement. Okay, so
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
item number 4.
Right.
Under public safety.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that one probably warrants some more work.
Okay, okay.
It's like, I agree that that's an important topic, but we need to ask for something since it's legislative priorities, that's all. All right. I don't have anything else on this for this committee.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So if there are no further business to come before the commission, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we are adjourned and it's 6:33.